Hi guys, this is the last topic of this lecture. It's about light regulation of developmental processes. So light has several benefits of to plants except above beyond the photosynthesis. Plants also provide a directional clue or signal for plants movement like solar tracking and blue light, as I mentioned earlier, is controls stomatal opening. Plants can induce seed germination through the process called photoblasty. Light can inhibit stem growth and stimulate leaf expansion, induce chlorophyll production in the process called photomorphogenesis. Plants light can govern the growth pattern in response to direction of radiation like phototropism and as we already know and sleep movement like in the process of leaf folding up during the night and folding down open during the dawn. Syntenasty and photonasty. Photoperiodism is the process that plants will flowers only in the season that specific to the period or duration of light during the day. So we have talked about blue light that induce stomatal opening, and I have talked about molecules that receive the blue light called phototropin. That is one of the photoreceptor, which is called photoreceptor. I'm sorry. So it's different from pigments. Pigment is just molecules of chemical structure that absorb the visible light at specific wavelength and reflect the rest out. And they once they absorb the light energy, they transfer the energy to the other molecules to do photosynthesis. But for photoreceptor, they do different job. They absorb the photon of a given wavelength, a specific wavelength as well, and they use that energy as a signal to initiate responses and respond to light we call photoresponse. So um, photoreceptor composing of two part protein like in the green color and the molecules of chromophore. This chromophore is specific for each wavelength of the light. This part will receive the color of the light and then will trigger the changes in the shape of the protein. And once the protein shape have been changed, it will trigger the downstream response in the cell, inside the cell that will trigger the changes in morphology of the plants, for example. And there are several types of photoreceptor. We have learned about phototropin. And if you look right here, phototropin is perceiving blue light and it govern or regulate the phototropism along with another photoreceptor called phytochrome. Phytochrome receive red light and infrared light and mediate several developmental processes such as photoblasty. This one is seed germination, photomorphogenesis. This one is the etiolated plants when the plant do not receive the light. The hypocotyl will elongate it and the leaf will not expand and not greening up. Once they receive the light through phytochrome, actually there are a lot of phytochrome here, and also cryptochrome, which is the UV and blue light absorbing photoreceptor. They will respond to be shorter, sturdier, greenier, and expanded leaf. So the next one, cryptochrome, is response to, again, photomorphogenesis, like this one that I have just explained. And together with phytochrome, cryptochrome, and another one like cytolube is the photoreceptor that absorb UVA and blue light. Um, Together, it will respond to flowering of the plants. The plants will respond to um, the light in order to to give flowers. Apart from that, Cytlope also responsible for day length perception. That's why the flowering has just happened by Cytlope. So I will go into the detail of flowering that responds to the period of light. Apart from the day length perception, Cytlope also responsible for circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is just the rhythm of the day that have how the plants or organism from bacteria, fungi, and all living organism responds to circadian rhythm is the rhythm of day and night cycling. It's similar to when you travel to different time zone. If you are here in Asian country and if you travel to the other side of the world like United States, you will experience that during the day you will feel sleepy, and during the night you will be very active during the course of 1 to 2 weeks after arrival. Like we call it jet lag, similar things because our body have been um, adapted to the day and night cycle of the day. But once your day and night have changed or shift, you will stay or stick with the old program, something like that. So we have talked about phytochrome, cryptochrome, phototropin, cytlope. The last one is UVR8, which is the photoreceptor that perceive UV radiation, which is specific for UVB. Is induce photomorphogenic responses. Actually, in here they don't have it right here, but as I talk about five photoreceptor in this lecture from now, I will focus only on phytochrome. So this is phytochrome is absorb the light in the red and far red region from 600 to 750 nanometers, and so it will respond better. I mean, it will signal the positive response once it receives the red light, and it can induce seed germination through the process called photoblasty, stem and leaf growth to shade avoidance and photomorphogenesis, and finally floral induction, for example. And the function is controlled by the response to different wavelength of light, because once it's received the one wavelength, it will respond to one way, another wavelength different way. For to be clear, here they have the two shape like PR and PFR. P just stand for phytochrome and R mean they need a red light to change. PFR mean phytochrome that need far red light to change. So PFR can receive the red light and become active. This form PSR is the active form of phytochrome. And once this active form receive the far red light or during the long night, this form will change into an inactive PR form. The um, For the shade avoidance, you can see that in picture A, you have two seedlings growing at the same stage, both of which receive red and infrared light. Remember, red light is the good signal to grow. The infrared light is another signal that the plants, the phytochrome, will become inactive. So this seedling growing into a grown plants because they receive red light that stimulate phytochrome activation. But if you have a smaller seedling in the middle, all the red light have been absorbed by the bigger plants. If you remember the photosynthesis lecture, blue and red light are important for photosynthesis. The rest the plants do not use. So if the younger plants do not receive the red light, it receives only the far red, the phytochrome will become inactive, and that trigger another response by having longer stem and paler leaves. Think about if you are too short, you want to see a person far away. You cannot see very well. You need to make yourself taller by stepping on a stool, for example. So when you get taller, you get more of the vision. Similar to these plants, once it gets taller, it will be able to receive the red light from the sun better. All right. So the process of photoblasting is just the process that the seed can be germinated only when the last light that they receive is red light. Right here you can notice that if the seed receive red light as the final signal, they will germinate. But in the way on the before, if they receive dark or even they receive red, but if you end with the far red, the seed will not germinate. Same thing here. If you alternate the red and far red, and if you end up with the red, they will germinate. Far red, no germination. This is the photoblasty. For photomorphogenesis is the process that plants will respond to low or no light. Here you have the left plants which receive enough light. The right pot, these plants do not receive light, they grow in the dark, they will become taller and the leaves will not expand and very pale. Similar to shade avoidance. And this phenotype we call photomorphogenesis. Actually, these phenotypes, because when it receives light, the plant will become shorter, sturdier, greener, and leaf opening. And finally, we go into the last topic, which is photoperiodism. It can be explained by the location of where the plants are on Earth. So if you notice on the map right here, you have the degree of the position on Earth. We are in Thailand now, and we are in about 10 to 15 degree. And if you move up north or down south, your degree will increase. And how that matters? Because at different season from January, February, and so on into December, the duration of the daylight will change if you move upward or downward. Here, if you are in Thailand, during June you get sunlight about above 12 hours per day. But if you are in December, you'll be like just a little bit less of 12 hours. But imagine if you are in Siberia or you are in Alaska, you are about 60 degrees from the equator. Your sunlight will be almost 24 hours, is more than 19 hours during the June. But during January, you get only 7 hours of light. So plants use this clue of the sunlight in response to different temperature because amount of sunlight during the day is also reflect the environment of the earth during that time. Because in the winter you have frigid temperature in the place that's closer to the pole, but during the summer you get a lot of sun and you get a lot of warmth. So the plants will prefer to stay in the warm area, right? So that phototropism is just how the plant responds to different period of light during different season. So we have a critical day of initiation of flowering. Why we need to consider why only the flowers that um, you need to think more about photoperiodism because flower is the very important process of the plants. They will produce the next generation to transfer their genes to their their offspring. And flower is a very delicate structure, and it need to be very optimum condition that they will grow the best and think about the next offspring, the new seedling that they can germinate and grow well before the frost set on. All right. So the plant need to think about this very well. And we have the critical day length, which is like a standard or baseline of the day. If the plants receive more or less of the light during the day from critical day length, they will respond differently. And there are four types of plants that respond to different in their length compared to the critical duration. We have generally short day plants. They will flower only when the light during the day is shorter than critical day length. The long day plants, they will flower only when the duration of the day is longer than the critical day length. Here I like to bring you an attention that actually the short day plants do not respond to the length of the day, but it actually responds to the length of the darkness. So the short day plants mean whenever it receives longer night, they will flowers. Short long day plants, whenever it receives short night, they will flowers. I talk about this because there are some experiment that there are some light in the middle of the night and the plant just respond differently. That's why I talk about the duration of the darkness instead of the duration of the night. And we have talked about short day, long day, and we need to think about intermediate day plants, the plants that do not flowers if the day are too short or too long. So they need to be in some region. And day neutral plants, the plants will flowers regardless of the length of the day or the length of the night. All right, I think that's what I have for the light response. So here I have list some major topics that you need to know before going to an exam, like what is plant development, what regulates plants development, how plants respond to stimuli, How auxin mediates cell elongation in different organs like the shoot or in the root, like the concentration differences, other function of auxin, function and application of GA, cytokinin, ABA, and ethylene. How do blue light and ABA regulate for stomatal opening and closing? How does auxin regulate differential growth in phototropism and gravitropism? Similar to here, how auxin mediates cell elongation. Why and how sunlight is important to plant growth and development. Differences between photosynthetic pigments and photoreceptor. How do photoreceptor works? Why plants growing in the shade have different morphology than those growing in the sun? How phytochrome responds to light and mediate photomorphogenesis. And finally, what important of what is the importance of photoperiodism? I'm sorry. So there's a lot of details in this, but basically you just need to understand all what I have taught. And if you have any question, please feel free to come uh, to I have I cannot think about the word. Anyway, we have it at Monday from 11 to noon, and this Monday I will wait in their Google Meet to see if you guys have any question. So here are some references that you can follow. We have the first one is the textbook for like um, for like grading school for like school student, and we have tests or tests for plant physiology and development, and finally the biochemistry and molecular biology of plants. The last one is quite um, detailed and very difficult for you guys, but it has a lot of information. The test one is, I think, it's a little bit easier than the last one, but I like the last one most. So this is what I have, and I hope I will be able to give you a quiz very soon. All right, thank you very much.